Okay, so now we need to create a new Apex class and new Apex methods to store our game's result. And in order to create a new Apex class, you can open the command palette and here type in Apex class and select the option which says create Apex class. We are going to name our class as board panel controller. And here in this class, we are going to create a new Apex method that we are going to call from our Aura component. So the first thing would be to annotate our Apex method with @Aura enabled annotation, which makes our Apex method available to our Aura component. And then we'll proceed with the method signature. So these methods must be either public or global. These methods cannot be private. And these methods must be static, and then we need to define our return type. In our case it will be string, and then the method name, so let's name it as addResult. This method is going to accept the game result, so I'm going to have a string parameter which I'll call result, and this is also going to accept the game mode, so another string parameter, and I'll name it as mode. Now we simply need to insert a new record inside our game result or word shuffle object here. So this should be very straightforward because we have done it many times previously as well. So let's copy our API name, and here we are going to create a new variable of this object, and let's call it game result. We are going to use our new keyword. I hope you haven't forgotten this, because Apex is the main thing that we are learning in this course. And first we need to define a value inside our result custom field. So let's copy the field name, and the result will be equals to this result that we'll get from our Aura component. And then we need to give the mode as well. So this should be mode, and it will be equals to mode. And then we can insert this record using our insert DML statement. And that's it. Now we can return success here. This is not mandatory, but this is something that I would always prefer instead of having a void return type. So we have our Apex method ready. The next step would be to call it from our board panel component. So in order to do that, first we need to define the controller here, and the controller should be equals to the class name, which is board panel controller. So this attribute kind of ties your Apex class with your Aura component, and now your Aura component can have access to all the Aura enabled methods in this class. Now the next step would be to call this method. So let's open the controller file. So here in this controller file, this method executes whenever a user wins or loses, and this will be our primary method to actually call our Apex method. So I'm going to open my helper file, and I'm going to create a new function here. I'm going to name it as addResult record, and this function will accept a component and a result value, which will be the game result. Let's name it as game result. And now here first we need to create Apex method call action. So let's get that. Let's name it as action itself, and we need to use our component variable and get method. This time we are not having v dot here, because we use v dot to get the attribute value, but now we want to get the Apex method, so instead we are going to use c dot our method name, which is this one, addResult. Then we need to set our parameters. So it will be like action dot set params, and this will be a JSON object. So let's check out our Apex method. It takes two parameters. The first one is result, and the value of this result will be equals to this game result. And the second parameter is mode, and we need to get this mode from this attribute, I believe. No, this one, because this attribute stores the selected mode. So we can get it using component.get v.selected mode, and this we will pass inside our mode parameter. What I'll do, I'll copy this line and I'll store my mode here, and I'll convert this mode value to uppercase, which is a simple JavaScript method to convert a string in uppercase letter. Let's name it as mode value. And then we need to define a callback. This callback will be called once we get a response from our Apex method. This response attribute is going to store the response from our Apex method. Now within this callback, first we need to get the state of our method call. So we need to make sure if this method call was successful or failed, or if you have got any error from server. So for that we need to use our response variable, which is this one, and then get state method. This method is going to return either success or error. So we'll check if the state is not equals to success. That means if there is some error, then we need to show that inside our console log. And I'll simply say error in saving record. And the last step would be to actually call this method. Let's name it as call Apex method. We need to use our enqueAction method, and then we'll pass this action here. Now you must be wondering, why do we call this Apex method later but we define the callback first? That's because this is asynchronous process. So once you make an Apex call, this callback will only be called when we get the response from the server. And if you call this method without defining a callback, then your method will never know what it has to do once we get the response from server. So that's the reason you need to define the callback first and then call your method. Now we'll call this method from our controller file. So here, let's call our method. First we need to pass our component variable, and then we need to pass the result value. Actually we can call it from outside here, because irrespective of if the user wins or loses, we always have to call this method. So I hope this works. Let's deploy all our code. Let's open our developer console, where we'll try to see the results of our game. So here I'm going to open my word shuffle object. I'm going to build a new query, and let's click on execute. So far we do not have any record in this object. So let's play a new game. Let's start. Okay, so we have lost, and hopefully we should have a new record inside our word shuffle game. So let's click on this refresh grid and we see a new record. Let's keep on playing this game. Maybe like let's reshuffle this. Okay, now we have won, and we should have got one more record here which says that we have won this game. I just want to make a quick change. What I want to do, I want this result to be capitalized. So let's go back to our VS Code, and similar to how we are changing our mode to uppercase, I'll do the same thing with the game result as well. So let's convert this to uppercase. And that's it. This is how you can call an Apex method from the Aura component framework